Hello and welcome back to some more Dwarf Fortress. My name is Koi Boy, and we're going to continue our castle, the Earthen Castle Fortress. This is my fortress that I've pretty much purely dedicated to trying to get animals, animal training, trying to encompass a lot of those aspects about animals that y'all might not know about. So we're going to load in here and don't mind this. I've got a mini maze for a minotaur that I slowly release prisoners in and let him actually do some training. So as this minotaur has been kind of like sitting here attacking these thieves, he is actually one of the few mega beasts, I think the only mega beast, that actually can get skills in training or train skills. So if I look at his skills, combat, he is a legendary fighter, high master observer, an expert miscellaneous object user. The reason he's this is because he's going around beating these guys with a cave spider silk shoe. But let's move off that and let's go to our animals. So we've got quite a few animals in here. We've got anywhere from giant dingoes to your domestic lambs to some yaks, some giant cougars, some king cobras, some normal jaguars, and some giant jaguars, some tigers, some giant leopards, some giant cockatiels, a little bit of everything. Some armadillos, giant armadillos are Draltha. But I am going to hit play here and kind of start going over some things. So first things first, if you want to get into animal training, you're going to want to set up cage traps. Cage traps is your way of capturing these animals to be able to use them into your or add them to your fortress. So, for example, I got this little agitated armadillo orb right down here. He's agitated, so he's going to actually slowly wander towards our fortress to go attack things. So, we'll just kind of keep an eye on him. He'll wander over and he'll set off one of these cage traps. As you can see, I've got cage traps kind of strewn around all my entrances. I'm playing on a world where the savagery is to the max, so I get agitated creatures all the time, which also means that these guys are actually going to come wander and try to attack our dwarves. Most of the time, if you play with normal savagery, not all animals are going to be agitated, and they'll just kind of wander around the outside of the map until they either leave the map or run into a dwarf, get into a fight, maybe kill a dwarf or two, or get killed by a dwarf, or you get lucky enough to capture him in a cage trap. So we'll just let this go about, and once this guy gets captured, I'll go over the training side of things. But let's go over just kind of some of our animals that we got here. We've got some elk birds, some elephants, some giant pangolin. Now, to note, there's a difference between certain animals and others as far as what they eat. Now, we have, say, this giant elephant. This giant elephant requires grazing. A lot of these other animals do too that I've got in this pen, like the rams, the reindeer cows, the normal elephants, the elk birds also require grazing. But there's also animals that don't. These giant dingoes. As you can see, nothing is being eaten from here. These guys, you don't have to have them penned in an area that has grass or fungus. Your animals will also eat fungus as far as grazing wise goes. That's why I've got these giant open areas down here for animal training. I got these giant two-hump camels. These guys are down here just eating this and staying alive. Now, hopefully this guy will wander over here soon. But now, to note, there is differences for different animals. For example, you have the innate value for most of your domestic animals that say you get a lot, and you butcher some. You're going to need a butcher's shop in order to do that. Now I've got, as you can see, 8 of these set up because I've got so many animals. If I do a mass culling, then I need a lot of butcher shops going. I mean, you can butcher them all at one shop, but it'll just take time because they have to go grab the animal, bring it back, butcher them at the place, and then go grab the next animal. If I got 8, I got enough people assigned to butchering, and they'll just people will knock them out really quickly. Now, depending on what animal you have, it'll give you a variety of different things. It'll give you a handful of different kind of meats, and some of your dwarves might be inclined to eating some of these foods. So, for example, if I go to this dwarf, my militia captain, Stukos, if y'all want any nicknames in any of these dwarves, just put it in the comment section. I'd like to add you guys to this game. But we'll take a quick look at him and we'll go to our preferences. And this guy, he prefers to consume Draltha. Well, lucky enough, I've got Draltha. So if I butcher up Draltha, I'll have some Draltha meat, and it'll actually give this guy a slight mood boost when he's eating that particular food. Now, they don't only just give you meat, they give you bones, they give you skulls, and depending on the animal, they'll sometimes give you hair, or they'll give you, they always, they usually always give you skin, which you will then need a tanner's workshop, and they'll tan that stuff into hides or into leather, and then leather you can use in your workshop, creating a variety of different items here. But let's get back to our animals, and then with our bones, you can make bone crafts. There's a couple different options. You'll under craft store workshop, you'll go to bone, and there's quite a bit of different things you can make here. You can decorate items with bone. You can make the different bone crafts like amulets, earrings, figurines. If you really don't care what their craft you're making, you can just select bone crafts and we'll just make one of the random crafts out of that, which are amulets, bracelets, earrings, figurines, scepters, and rings. You can make bolts. So if you got a brand new Marks Dwarf group in your fortress and you don't quite have metal yet, you can make bone bolts. Or you can make wood bolts, but I prefer to save my wood for barrels and bins and beds. Those few things that you can make out of other things, like bins. You can make metal bins. You can make metal and stone pots, but barrels are lighter, so I'd rather make wooden barrels or wooden bins. Beds are exclusively out of wood in the normal Minecraft, so sorry, Dwarf Fortress, and you'll need wood to make those beds, so I like to save my wood for beds and bins and barrels. So if you got an early Marks Dwarf group and you need some kind of bolts, you can make some bone bolts to help just kind of get them the stuff, and then when they set up an archery range, they'll practice with those bone bolts, and then once you feel like they've gotten strong enough, you hit that metal, you can start making metal bolts, and that will definitely help out when you're facing off invaders. Next, you can also make some kind of bone armor. So if you, like I said, if you don't have metal quite yet, you can make some bone gauntlets, some bone greaves, some bone helms, some bone leggings, just a handful of different armor pieces, not the chest plate though. So note that you won't be able to make bone chest plates. You can also make bone large gems. This is basically another craft. So nothing else there. I like to make in this fortress, I am making a bunch of bone crafts, and I will sometimes also decorate stuff with bones. And then as far as let's go down to the skull that you'll get from the animal. The skull is only used for one thing, and that is totems. I've got them making totems over here, and it just takes a skull and makes a totem. These are things that you can just trade away to the traders, specifically the human and the dwarven traders. Elves will not trade you anything if it's made out of wood or if it's made out of animal parts. Also, if it's decorated with animal parts. So if you want those elven traders, you better be making some stone crafts or stone things. They'll take that. They will not take anything made out of animals. Alright, let's see if we've got our little armadillo. Nope, he's still chilling over here. As you can see over to the left side, I have a giant dingo that actually gave birth to some dingo pups. That'll happen if you got a breeding pair of animals. Let's see, I got a male right there, I got a female right here. These guys will, if they're close enough to each other, she'll have a chance of getting fertile and getting pregnant, and then eventually babies will pop out. Now when babies pop out, they always pop out with the training level of the mother. So if this one has any babies, it'll always be master, regardless if this guy over here is the father. And once they're popped out, you're going to want to make sure you come down to your pets and livestock. I'll scroll all the way down. So this very first part, all your animals, and then as you go down, they'll come to a part where it starts getting red, and these are all your baby animals. So I'll keep scrolling down, and it should be close to the bottom is where your newly born animals are. I'm going to select this guy to be trained by any trainer. I've got all these guys that are all legendary trainers, as you can see, with all my different trainers. And this being a fortress I've been playing for 12 years now in game. So they've got quite a bit of experience. Now, you can also see here, it says grazer, requires pasture. Where it says requires pasture, well, you can make a pasture, say you make it in here, they're not going to be able to graze on that. You're going to need to make those pastures that say grazer on grass or fungus, like I noted earlier. That is just a nice quick way of seeing, hey, is this animal a grazer or is it just a normal animal? So, as you see, all these war elephants I've got here, all these war dogs aren't grazers. Billy goats are grazers, Joe rabbits, and then rams, and then there's other ones. Now, there is something, I'm not quite sure what it is, but these Draltha, these are grazers. So I'm not sure why it doesn't show up sometimes, but if you have any questions, always consult the wiki or leave a comment. I will happily answer any of those questions you got. Let's see, he's still chilling down here, so I won't be able to show that quite yet. But as far as animals training, you've got different levels of training. Now, you have the basic training. It's the same as any kind of item you make. It has different qualities. So you got these ones that are masterpieces. You got the ones that are exceptional, the ones that are trained, really trained plus. You got the ones that are semi-wild, and then you got tame. Now tame, if it is tamed, then you don't have to worry about training it. Now, as you can see, hey, I've got, let's grab these ones, these giant pangolins that are tame. I captured them, but they're tame now. Whenever you capture a new animal in its wild, you can never actually get it domesticated unless it is one of the creatures your fortress has already got domesticated. So I'll go to my pets and livestock, and I'll look at the overall training. Now, you can see right here, alpacas are domesticated. If I was to capture an alpaca and I train them, it'll automatically become tame. There's a couple of levels to training. There's a few facts. A few facts is the very first level you get to. It requires 30 points in training of the animal. Now, when I say points, every single time your dwarf trains an animal, it gets your civilization or your group here at wherever castle or wherever fort you're at gets 3 points in that level, in that training for that animal. Once it hits 30 points, you get a few facts. And then that invisible kind of a clock or that invisible counter resets down to 0, and you start training towards general familiarity. That will take 100 points to get to general familiarity. Once you hit that, does the same, resets, and you start training towards knowledgeable. Knowledgeable is 250 points. And finally, after that, you get expert. Expert is 500 points. Now, there's actually a way for certain animals for you to kind of speed that up. And those are animals that can be trained in war or hunting. Now, there's only a certain amount of animals that can be trained in war and hunting. If I click on my open civilization info, pets and livestock, this will let you know if they can be trained for war or hunting. As you can see, if you keep an eye on right here, let's scroll down to, say, this giant leopard. You got all these great horned owls. These ones, this right here is to select the trainer. And then these right here is to select if it's to receive war training or hunting training. When you train an animal for war or hunting, it gets you 10 points towards your overall training for that animal. So anything like giant leopards, giant jaguars, elephants, normal jaguars, those are all able to get trained for war or hunting. Those ones shoot up really quick once you start doing that. And now, to note, as far as your overall training, you can actually transfer some of this knowledge back to your overall civilization. So I'll go into my civ screen, and that is this little, it's kind of my world map, but I call it my civilization screen because it lets me look at the overall, all the civilizations here. I am part of the Galley of Blockades. You can see in that top right corner where it says civilization, Galley of Blockades. That is the civilization my fortress, the dwarves I started my fortress is out of. You can also note they're blue. Your allies are going to be green. Enemies are this orange. Now, when I say about transferring knowledge back to your civilization, every single time you get a dwarven caravan, and your overall knowledge for that animal is above your civilization's knowledge, your dwarves, when they leave, that trading caravan leaves the map, they transfer 10 points towards that animal. So, buzzards. I have my expert. You start out with 0 knowledge for your civilization with buzzards. So now it's the same amount for a few facts. It's 10. It's 30 points to get to a few facts. So if I have buzzards and I have them with the knowledge of a few facts, well, your civilization, it takes 3 caravans, and then now your civilization knows a few facts about buzzard training. But if they still sit at a few facts and your civilization's at a few facts and you have trade caravans, well, it's no longer transferring that training points to them. But say I train them up to general familiarity, those trading caravans will start bringing that knowledge back to your civilization. And it'll be 10 points, but it'll take 100 points to get to that general familiarity for your civilization. So it'll take 10 years to get your civilization to general familiarity after they were at a few facts. So say expert buzzards, and I start getting those trade caravans right now, it'll take 30 or 3 years to get the few facts back to the civilization, 13 years to get to general familiarity, then another 25 years after that to get to knowledgeable, and then a following 50 years after that to get to an expert. So it does take quite a while if you're trying to get to expert level with these training, your overall civilization for this. But if you like animals, which I like to get animals and train them and such, after you have a handful of different fortresses and your years have gone by, you might have some animals up to expert. Now, there's certain ones, like this blind cave bear. I don't have any blind cave bears here. Or bug bats. I don't have any bug bats here. These ones are cavern dwelling creatures. Your dwarven civilization already has a general familiarity with how to train them. So your baseline for that is already starting here. So once I get knowledgeable, like these cave crocodiles, they started off with general familiarity. Now they're knowledgeable. It'll take 25 years to get to that knowledgeable point for my civilization. But say I cut off this fortress at year 125. Well, that's at least 3 years to 30 points towards that training of them. And then I get another fortress where I capture some cave crocodiles, get those for another 15 years that I have the knowledgeable or I have the higher training than my civilization. Then that amount will add up. And then maybe eventually down the line, my civilization will have that knowledgeable aspect for the cave crocodiles, their overall training. So that's kind of how the transfer of training points goes. You're training for these animals. But the one thing which I wish we'd be able to eventually get to is domesticated. No animal can ever get to that domesticated point. Your dwarven civilization, when it starts off, it'll have all the basic domesticated animals. There's certain depends on the world gen. Certain other ones will become domesticated also. I once had a fortress that already had, I believe, domesticated elephants, which is really cool. But it is kind of very random. I mean, you have all your basic ones like pigs, sheep, turkeys, rabbits, and reindeer. But if you get lucky and one of the civilizations in the world that you have has it domesticated for another one, that's cool. But you'll never be able to actually get up to the domesticated point for any animal. Expert is the highest you can actually train animals to. Now, you ask me, how do I have tame, say, giant pangolins? Well, when an animal is born, they'll have this little baby on them. Certain animals are born adults, but many animals are born babies. If you train a baby animal while it's still a baby, those babies will automatically become tame. So now I've got a tame pangolin. Although they're not domesticated, I have a tame one because I trained it while it was a baby. Now, in order for you to have these animal trainers go out there and train animals, you can come over here and under your labors, you're going to want to add that work detail, and you're going to want to add, well, I've already got it set up, but you want to add work detail, then your work detail, and you customize the name. I have it set as trainer, so just type in trainer if I knew how to spell trainer, which I'll actually select here, and then you'll want to hit this little gear icon, and I have both animal care and animal training selected as my trainer skill. You can have multiple different things in this labors tab. I can have everything selected. I just want animal training and animal care. Animal care is not quite really in the game yet, but it is there. But you will definitely want the animal trainer training for you to have those animal trainers train animals. Oh, look at there. I've captured the armadillo boar. As you can see now, the cage trap normally it just looks like this, but now I've got two things. I've got the cage trap, it no longer has a cage part of it. And then I've got this other one where it has the cage with the armadillo boar in it, or agitated armadillo boar. Now we want to train that animal. So if I come down here and it'll be under other, and you'll sometimes have to scroll down to it. I've got quite a few invaders on the map, and I've got quite a few caged people on this map also, and wild animal people. But if I come down, I'll see, hey, this one has the little training symbol. So I click this, and for me, myself, I always usually do any animal trainer, but I can select, hey, I want, you know, Cragglesnag to be this animal trainer, and only that animal trainer will ever train this specific animal. I'll leave it to any just in case something happens to him. I've always had those other animal trainers there as backup. And after a little bit, our animal trainer, well, first it looks like it's already queued up to be moved back. With this little symbol lets me know, hey, there's someone's got this task and they're gonna come grab this guy. And they're gonna carry him back to my animal stockpile. Super simple to set up animal stockpile. You select animals and you're good to go. I myself have it kind of altered slightly. When you have animals, it'll select all empty cages, empty animal traps, and all this will be green. I only want certain animals here. I've got all my empty cage traps over here, and then all the animals and creatures I can't tame are all up in here. So I got my elves, my butterfly men, my trolls. These are all ones I can't tame. So they've got their own little stockpile hidden away. That, like I said earlier, I got my minotaur down here. I'm slowly but surely, I don't want to say feeding, but kind of am feeding it. That lets me know I'm going to release another person into here. Alright, back to the animals. Now, there's certain animals that will require nest boxes. Those animals are your egg-laying animals. For example, king snake. Ooh, let me actually do something real quick. King cobra, tame. Oh, no. That's where. Okay, that's fine. So, let's see if I can find a certain one. It doesn't look like there's any animals sitting on any nest boxes here currently. Oh, okay. Patricia. Yeah, nothing here, but you can see, hey, this guy has claimed that nest box. Hey, human caravan. Cool. I'll get that set up here in a little bit. Trade these humans a whole bunch of stuff. But here's my nest box claimed by elkbirds. There's nothing in it right now. When that elkbird decides she wants to lay an egg, she'll come, she'll lay an egg, she'll lay her eggs, and then she'll sit on top of here. Elkbirds are notoriously a little bit more difficult to trade or to have eggs and actually have them hatch. It's because they require grazing, and I've had an elkbird or two die while on a nest box because it was trying to eat food and it couldn't because there was no grass under it. And sometimes your animal trainers will come and even take them off the nest boxes. Let's see if this one, nope, nothing there. That's fine. But as far as babies and nest boxes go, so your animal If it's lucky and it gets fertilized eggs, it'll lay its eggs and you'll be able to see, hey, there's eggs down here. You'll want to forbid those eggs. That way your dwarves don't come and harvest them to go take them to the food area. You can also make your food area not accept eggs, and they'll also make it so they don't come grab them. But not all eggs that they lay are fertilized eggs. As you see, hey, king snake eggs, 12 of them. But I've got DF hack installed just for little helpful things. For example, it'll let me know if eggs are fertilized. But if you're playing without this, you'll want to just come over here, forbid these, and your dwarves will not come grab these eggs, and that snake will sit there, or the bird will sit there, and over time, it'll sometimes lay those eggs will eventually hatch. Now, when those eggs do hatch, they are not assigned to the same zone as your as the mother. In reverse, differently, if say like my giant dingo, which gives live birth, if it has a baby, they are automatically selected to the zone that the mother is in. So if you have a bunch of animals or some ones that are laying eggs and they lay their egg in here and they eventually hatch, you're going to want to select that zone and select all those animals, however many ones are born in there. You're going to want to make sure you put them in there, or else they'll start wandering the fortress. Kind of like a lot of these king snakes or king cobras are. I have to actually select them in here. Now, quick and easy enough to do that. You want to select zone, pen and pasture, and then once you do that, you can draw out your pen and pasture, and then you'll hit accept, and then you'll have your zone. Now to assign animals to that zone, I click this little button right here, and this is all the ones that are already selected for that zone. Little check mark right next to it, those are the ones you have selected. Now, I want all the rest of my king cobras in here. I've got a handful that are actually in cages. I'm hoping to trade away this next season to the dwarves. All these ones that are not, I am going to add them to this zone, and my dwarves should come and bring them to here. Now, no, hey, where's it? This one? Patricia, nope. Which one is it? Helmet Snake. That's good, that's good. There was one, I believe, is over here. Yes, claimed by Elkbird. Claimed by King Cobra. Well, we have those King Cobras over in the other zone. So this will sit here and it'll be claimed by the King Cobra indefinitely unless you move this specific King Cobra over here. What you can also do is I will remove this building and then I'll just simply rebuild it right over here. Hey, some wild boar piglets. Some of my porcupines have grown up, and I've got a couple more cabby pups. Cool. Oh yeah, a couple other things. Certain animals will actually give you shells. Armadillos will give you shells when you butcher them. So if you have an issue with getting some shells for your artifacts or your mysterious your artifacts or your mysterious moods, that's if you get lucky and you actually get some armadillos, definitely try to set up a breeding program for them. That is a good healthy supply of shells. Also, some animals, birds specifically, when you butcher them, you'll get feathers. Feathers aren't used for anything right now, so that is just basically waste, and you'll want to put that in a dump so it's not taking up space in your refuse pile. Also, with two-hump camels, you get cartilage. Cartilage is also one of those things that are absolutely worthless, and you can never actually use cartilage. Same with elephants. Got a whole bunch of shells here. I've got this little setup here to be able to put all my refuse into this one little spot right here, making it so that it's a lot easier to deal with all my items filling up my refuse bins. Also, chitin is another one of those things that can't be made into anything, and the spines of a porcupine. Just kind of worthless stuff that you cannot, well, you can't exactly trade. Hey, let's see. Want to check here. Did I capture a giant grasshopper? Yes, I did. I'll get this guy trained up. I'm going to move some goods to and from the trade depot. This will take a minute because I've got so many goods. So it takes a hot second for this part to load up for me, at least. I'm trying to send out as many things as possible now, even like overly shipping towards traders, because I've got so much in my fortress. But here we go. Now, I've been trading mainly all my bone crafts to these guys. That's 29. It's probably more than enough for everything on their cart. Here's another one. I know they're all a certain distance away. I'm gonna grab these ones. Let's see. Yep, those ones also. 30. Yeah, that's more than enough. That will be well more than enough. But this can also go over animal trading. So I can go to my animals and I can trade away animals. So this giant grasshopper, I'll wait until he's trained, and then I'll be able to trade it. Well, I can actually trade him away now, but you know what? I will trade him away now. I don't need him. I already actually expert level training with this guy, so there's no real point to actually train him. So I'll leave that as none. Actually, I don't. Let me train him first and then send him out. I always like to trade away tamed, trained, or otherwise some kind of aspect of their training to traders when I do training. And different animals have different values. For example, I've got, like I said, this giant grasshopper. Where is that giant grasshopper? Boom. Let's go find this guy right here. This is worth 530. The giant grasshopper himself has a value of 500. The value of the cage itself is 30, so that's a combined total of 530. Now I'll come back here, I'll make sure I get a little trainer on him, and once I see that guy trained, I'll have him moved over to our trading depot. Let's click through this. Human Chancellor. What are you? You can do a fight over here, bud? Agitated and not sure what happened. Let's see if that guy is still merchant, pikeman. Let's see if they are still here. There we go. Okay. Yeah, you're still here. Going to trade. But now we can actually get to a couple of different things. Animals. Hey, this one is a pet of Father Ibex. Certain dwarves will have certain disposition towards certain animals. So under preferences, this one doesn't really have any ones in there. This one right here, preferences. Red, this guy, or this guy, the cat whisperer, or this girl, the cat whisperer, likes native platinum, topazolite, pond turtle shells, cats for their aloofness. Now, if one of your dwarves likes an animal, say for example, cats for their aloofness. This is one of the few cases where cats will adopt people. Now let's see if I can find Father Ibex. I know I can by selecting this. If I go to his personality preferences, you can see here he likes llamas for their jutting teeth, and then he likes ibexes for their long horns. So this guy will take pets, ibex, as pets. Now, for your dwarf to have that possibility, you have to go to your pets and livestock, and then right over here, you can toggle whether you want them to be a pet for someone. So let's scroll down to Ibex, or I can just type it in here. Whoops, Ibex. Now this one I've already selected as a possible pet for someone. Also these two, which Father Ibex hasn't been around, so that's as their little ones. These ones are selected available as pet. So if your dwarf has a preference towards that specific animal, those animals have the possibility to become that person's pet. Now, cats are different. Let's see if I can find a stray cat. Or stray kit. Let's go with stray kit. Cats are different where you can't actually make them available for a pet, to become a pet. They are just uninterested in an owner. That's what this will read. Now, if you have someone like the Cat Whisperer, which likes cats, then those cats will adopt the dwarf. Instead of the dwarf adopting the animal, the cats will adopt the dwarves. That's kind of how the pet system in this works. So I can possibly get lucky and have some giant dingoes. That one of my dwarves likes giant dingoes, and hey, they have the possibility of adopting those as pets. Now, there's also war animals. So I kind of went over it, briefly touched on war animals earlier. War animals, when they are born, when you train them for war, they should show up near the top of your pets and livestock. Hey, these are all my war animals. I've got a hunting bat. I've got a couple of hunting bats, actually. Some war dogs, some war elephants, more war dogs, a war jaguar. Now, I want to give this guy right here, I want to give him an owner. You can still make him toggle available as a pet for someone, but you can also assign them as a pet of someone. Now, this is specifically war animals and hunting animals. So, let's just find some random person in here to give a war animal. Maybe Morel. Describe. Now, that giant hunting bat will actually get a new name and will become owned by that person. And they'll follow him around and be with him the whole time. Giant bats, they can only be trained for hunting. Certain animals can only be trained for hunting. Certain animals can be trained for both. Giant bats are those ones that can only be trained for hunting. That's why I have the hunting giant bats up here. And like this one, I gave both of these guys to her, this girl and this guy bat, to Monem, our historian. And now they're going to follow him around. And I've got my hunting bats. I've also got war, which are treated the same way. I can select which citizen I want to give that war animal to. That's as far as assigning war animals or assigning work animals to people or to your dwarves. I like to try to get a male and a female, two dwarves. And then if I get lucky and start a new fortress and that dwarf migrates, I've yet to test this theory, but I'm hoping that that dwarf who has migrated will have them as their work animal or pet and migrate with them. But I'm not positive that that works or not. Also, when it comes to animals, certain animals have different values for their materials. For example, your domesticated animals have a value of 1 for the materials when you butcher them, for like their bones and stuff like, and skin and leather, while say my giant elephant here and the normal elephant, their value multiplier is 5. So anything made out of giant elephant bone or giant elephant leather or their ivory will be 5 times the value of its base. Let's check out this little diplomacy here. Yeah, it's good to meet you too. Oh, yes, it is quite pleasant. There's some information. And let's look at the world screen. See if there's any information. So news and rumors. We've got elves over here. Early winter. Army of this guy marched over here. Who's this? Human hamlet. Elven fortress. Elven retreat. Elven retreat. I'm not sure if these elves are at war with each other, if it's the humans at war with them. Maybe I can see civilizations, Singed Glade. Oh, 2 different elven civilizations are at war. And then right over here, called them fled from this area before an army led by the elf attacked. So that's the Slippery Lances. Nothing new here. I don't really see any other things. I mean, mainly it'll be around the civilizations that you're trading with. That'll give you kind of notes. I won't really hear anything about stuff going on up here, but it doesn't look like much has been known. Hey, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. Now it looks like a whole bunch of our different books have been known to the world here. So mid-spring, this was known to be in the Sanctuary of Bridges. This in mid-spring, late autumn, in spring. Let's see, is there any 12, 122 during the summer? Nothing new here. So the little X's, it lets you kind of see when it comes to like movements, like armies moving, places being founded. Or you can see right here, there's like little site. You can actually click on it. If it's long, for example, like this one, I can click and I'll just escape to get out of there. But nothing new as far as really any important news. Now that human diplomat should leave, and then I can come over here. Normally, I would say I'm going to have my broker requested over here, so I'm going to do that. So my mayor, after he's done sleeping, he'll come down here and we can do some trading. Let's check on our animal. Now, you can see, hey, these are just what animals are in the cages. If I select that cage, lets me see the animal. Hey, this giant grasshopper, he's masterfully trained now. Well, I am going to move him to trade with the humans over here. Let's wait for that to load up. Let's see what's going on with this. There we go. There we go. Everything is loaded up. Let's get that cage trap with our giant grasshopper. Select him to trade. We're going to come over here and we're going to trade him away to the humans. One of the things I can do with this giant grasshopper, I can't actually select him while he's in here, but I can come over here to the civilization info, pets and livestock, and let's look up giant grasshopper. There we go. Now I've got all these giant grasshoppers. A lot of them are in cages. I'm assuming this was the one that is in that solo cage that we're going to trade away. And what I'm going to do, which probably helps out, is the fact that it's the only one without the option of butcher. I'm actually going to look at him. I'm going to give him a little nickname. Let's give him a little quick nickname. Ooh, man. And we'll trade him away. I want to see what happens if we trade this specific grasshopper with that nickname away to these humans. See if we maybe see him later on in the world or something. Looks like we got a giant great horned owl floating around our fortress. I'm going to quickly do one thing. I want to block that. That way he doesn't fly in there. My fortress I made. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. As you can see, I've got entrances. Everyone is covered with cage traps. Boom. Bunch of cage traps. Bunch of cage traps. And then any kind of cage traps over here. I also have these little spots that are open to the air above. I've got also in this entrance cage traps just in case something flying tries to go here. I've got these spots, so if an animal decides to fly into here, well, they'll come down here and get captured in those cage traps just on the outsides of those areas. So I've kind of created this fortress to catch animals. So hopefully I can catch more and more as the day goes on or as the years pass by. Let's see if our trader is here. No, he's still sleeping. And also if I go down to our cavern level, I've got cage traps. If you want, as far as cage trap setting, so this is this spot from here over to here. There's normally, they'd have to go through the water, and some animals don't go through water. I created this little path right here, and I put cage traps all along here. And then also right here, I put a giant wall with some cage traps here. As long as you can kind of funnel them in towards these cage traps, it'll help you capture creatures underground and also above ground. You gotta just know the movements. Around corners are really helpful because animals, as they go around your fortress, they'll come take the quickest path, and the quickest path is right around the corner. Oh, I could probably open this up and this up. I do want to create some kind of tavern area. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to do that because I want to start bringing in some people that aren't exactly dwarves. Let's see if our trader is down here. Nothing yet. I'm going to come actually down to this level. I believe he's probably taking care of that wherever our Minotaur buddy is. Let's get his skills. Combat. Legendary fighter. Almost level 16 legendary fighter. Getting close to level 9 expert miscellaneous object user. So definitely leveling up this guy, and then I might eventually see if I can release him to the outside world or have him fight a forgotten beast. Now, let's see. We've got a couple of birds down here that I am going to see if I can send back out into the wide open world. This one is semi-wild. Now, as your animals are training, the very first level of training is semi-wild, and after it goes from semi-wild, after a period of time, animals lose their training. Semi-wild is the bottom, and if it goes from semi-wild to wild, you have to recapture it for you to train it. Now, I'm trying to get this guy to go wild, and I'm going to release him into here. I've got all these walls and everything set up so that they can't escape, and their only real exit is over here. I'm going to see if we can get this peregrine falcon to leave the map. Now, I was reading into some animals and such, and you can have animals and capture so many of that species that they no longer spawn for you. This is in specific sites or specific biomes. For example, I'm right here next to a Badlands biome, I believe coniferous forest over here, and deciduous forest over here. So I get a variety of animals from each one. So when you're also picking your starting location for your fortress, if you have a spot that is intersected with multiple biomes, that is really good if you want a variety of animals. So I've got my giant two-hump camels. These guys spawned in the Badlands biome up here. You can kind of see the difference. And then I've got ones that were born that came from the coniferous forest biome, and then some that came from the deciduous forest biomes. There's some animals that overlap between the different areas, but there's also some that don't. Now, as far as the population, hey, I've captured all these buzzards before. I am no longer seeing buzzards spawn on my map. So, what I'm hoping to do with those peregrine falcons, at least, and probably some of these other ones that are rare, after I do a lot of breeding, take the trained one and let it go wild and see if it'll leave the map and kind of populate the world, the overall world statistic population for that in that biome. And that would be really cool for like these tigers, because you really hardly ever see tigers or jaguars or giant jaguars or giant leopards or even giant sloth. Like I've only captured I think 3 giant sloth, and I hardly ever see them pop up. I got quite a few of these giant great horned owls, giant barn owls, and I'm also seeing a lot more giant creatures because, like I said at the beginning of this episode, there is in my world settings when I created the world, I set it to savage, like the max level for savagery, which creates more giant creatures in the world. Hey, my mayor got reelected. Alright, let's do some trading. I always take all the bars. I mean, I'm going to take all their blocks. I'll take all that. I've got plenty of money. I don't have clay on this map. I don't need any of this clay. I've got kaolinite. Kaolinite is used to make porcelain, so that is what I use for my clay making things. I could get some random instruments and such. You know what? Let's grab a couple of different instruments, because why not? Hey, cats. Hey, they're trading elephants. I've already got elephants. Donkeys, reindeer, cows, drakes. Nothing unique there. Let's see. I got a decent amount of drink. Don't really need anything else, but I'll take this just purely for the barrels. Let's scroll down. I can get some random different weapons that only the humans make, but I think I'm good there. Maybe the flail. Keep scrolling down. Large animals or items your dwarves can't wear, so I'm not worried about that. I don't need any of this. I can make higher quality ones. What I'm looking for. You don't trade. Yeah, I don't need any kind of bags. I can make bags myself. These are giant gems. You can kind of also do is if you click at the top right here, it'll actually minimize a lot of this stuff. You know what? I'll take all your meat because that is stuff I can't really get. All your fish, especially, because I haven't been doing any fishing, but I do want to keep my fish supply up. I'm good with the plants, with that, with all this, all the quivers. I don't need any of this, but I will take. Interesting. You know what? I'll take a mortar and pestle. But I will take all your scrolls. Give Me Human. I've got so many copies of this. You know what? I don't need all the copies of Give Me Humans. Let's not. I think I've already got some. But I will take your other surveying common practices and the shape. And I also take all your codices and all your parchment sheets. And that's probably good. Now let's trade away. Now looking at the trader loss, this is where I'm looking for, hey, they've got 6,000, I still owe them. You know what? You can have that bin. Oh wait, not that bin. You can have that bin. If I click this, I would have traded all the bins I have here, but that is fine. You can have all that. I'm not really needing anything else. You're good with, yeah, you're gonna be good with what I give you. So let's trade away the giant grasshopper and this one bin of finished goods. 13,000 pound, 13,000 worth of value. Boom. Yes. All right. Oops. That is the DF hack little thing up here. If I click it, this pops up the launcher. But like I said, I try to only use it for really those quality of life things that, like the fertile on the eggs. It's really nice. Hey, I no longer need anyone here. I'm going to move goods to and from depot, and I'm going to unselect those bins. So those bins will go back to the stockpiles I have them at. Boom, boom, boom. Just takes a, oh, yes, it's loading. There we go. Bins. If I double select that, I can just, and that is good there. Yes, you can have that, and nothing else is selected. We're good there. We're done trading with the humans. I like how they have pack elephants. I wonder where exactly they're getting their elephants from. Now, what I like to do, hey, these giant dingoes. Giant dingoes, they have a value of value modifier of 2, so that's twice the value of a lot of normal things. I'd much rather just straight up sell those guys. Same things with like the giant pangolin, the giant coati, my king snakes, my peregrine falcons, but things like I've got cave crocs or giant bats, my elephants, those have value modifiers of 4, or like I said about the elephants earlier, 5. So I'll make sure I save those. Drotha are at a 3, elk birds are at 3. Like, you can look all this stuff up on the wiki to be able to give you that kind of extra information on these animals. Now, one thing about these, you can't really see at all. If I click through here, it doesn't tell you anything like that as far as how big these creatures actually are. Now it gives you, hey, this giant war elephant, she's a great musical sense. This is all randomly generated. She might have a great musical sense. I would love to see this elephant be playing one of our instruments, but that's not going to happen. Now, however, there's animals, and like I said about sizes, you can't really tell how big an animal actually is. This one is a 24-year-old elephant. When they reach the age of 10, they become adults. Now, elephants, they also live from 50 to 70 years old. Unlike, say, these giant dingoes. Giant dingoes, they take, I believe, a year to get to an adulthood, but they live only for 10 to 20 years. So this guy, 2 more years, and has that possibility of dying. So once they start getting closer to that age, I like to probably trade them away, or I'm gonna try to release these back into the wild if I'm able to. If they're older, but sizes. Now, your average dwarf, when it is born, it's about, I'm going to say, 3,000 cubic centimeters. I'm just going to start using, it's cubic centimeters is the measurement, but I'm just going to go with numbers. It's easier. So it's 3,000 is the size. As an adult, it is 60,000 is the max size for a dwarf. Giant elephants. When these puppies are born, they start off with a minimum size as a baby, 4 million cubic centimeters. And as they grow up to be an adult, it is 40 million is the size. So if that gives you any representation of how big these guys are, that truly shows how massive. 40 million compared to 60,000 for your adult dwarf. Now, a lot of your giant animals will be much larger than your dwarves. Then you got certain animals, like my king snakes over here. These guys are only like 1,500 as an adult. And they only come out as 20 as their baby size. King cobras, they come out as 4 as their baby size, but they can grow up as big as 6,000. So one of the things Dwarf Force doesn't exactly portray, and you can actually look up to see how big these animals are. But it kind of gives you an idea. If you look at the wiki, you can kind of see there's different sizes for the different animals. And it's kind of cool knowing that these guys, these giant elephants, which are the largest animal or largest trainable animal, land animal, because I believe you can get some kind of whales, but that's really tricky as far as animal training, capturing and training in the water. But this is the largest trainable land animal you can get. Possibly dragons. I'm not quite positive on the size. I think they do get big. They are bigger than dragons. Don't take my word for it. But dragons live forever, so that's a much cooler aspect. Giant elephants, yeah, them being 40 million as the size, and a normal elephant as an adult, just normal elephant, their adult size is 5 million. So they're, as an adults, they're barely bigger than baby giant elephants. Cool little fun fact for y'all. Now, with animals, also, get into some leather. You'll want to have your auto or tanner shops set up. You want to have some leatherworks set up because you can get quite a bit of leather. If I come down here to my labor menu, not labor, sorry, the, where is it? I believe it's work. No, it is labor menu, yes, sorry. Labor menu. You've got standing orders, kitchen, stone use. This is once you get a manager, you'll be able to actually select or have these little things be able to be selected. Now, I've got it set up to a couple different things. We're automatically weaving thread, but as far as animals, we're going to take a look down here. Slaughter any marked animals. So once I mark an animal to be slaughtered, it'll get slaughtered. Or you'll have no automatic slaughtering. I always leave this on because they won't slaughter any animal unless you tell them to slaughter it. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Or that's how it's already basically set up. Automatic butchering carcasses, so if your dwarves hunt down an animal, or sometimes dwarves will kill an animal, they'll come and they'll butcher those carcasses. Then you've also got your automatic tannery. Automatic tannery makes it so that your dwarves, when they butcher an animal, they'll grab the skin and they'll automatically tan that into leather, sorry. There's only one thing that you might not want to actually do that, is if you're trying to make parchment. If you're making parchment, you're going to want to use the skin for making parchment instead of tending to hide. I'm not making parchment. It's much easier to create paper parchment is also a type of sheet paper from a screw press, a quern, or millstone, and jut, or sorry, not jute, pigtails, or there's Rami, I believe, is some of the stuff, or where is some of the, yeah, you got, yeah, jute, Rami, rope reed. A lot easier to make those sheets out of that material, in my opinion, than trying to do the whole process of creating parchment. I mean, if you want your dwarves to be writing stuff on parchment, yeah, go right ahead. I like to trade trainers for parchment sheets. I did do some paper sheets earlier just to make sure I had some, but now that I've got what I need, I've got all my sheets. And then in order for your sheets to come into here for the dwarves to write on them, you're gonna want to make them into querns. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, agitated blue peacock. That's one of those animals. If I were to capture it and I would train it, it would automatically become domestic. Here's another one chilling out here. I'm not worried about that guy. They'll come. They'll either get captured or these humans at the front gates will deal with them. Even if they get past this front gate part, I've got cage traps back here that'll capture them. So that is one. I want to say pretty much as much information as I can about give y'all about all these animals and such. As you can see, I've got a variety of different animals. I got sloth bears, which actually one of my dwarves likes sloth bears. So I've got some pet sloth bears for that person. Hanging Floppy because he likes sloth bears for their floppy ears. If you guys want to know more about animals, got any questions or anything like that, please let me know in the comment section. If you want an animal to be named after you, put it in the comment section. If you want a dwarf to be named after you, put it in the comment section. Or any little thing. Now, what I'm going to be doing with these guys is I'm actually trading these ones to the dwarves when they come back next season. So that's my plan with all these animals I've got chilling over here. You can also capture little animals. These ones are some ones I traded from the elves. Like, for example, I got some sparrows, some parakeets, some chameleons, bark scorpions that I've got up here in our zoo. Hey, that's really cool that you're enjoying this. I know we'll take it easy. I don't think you have any labors, bud. Oh, you bone carver. Let's take you off bone carving. Let's make it so that you are only down here doing your history stuff. We got a thriving library over here. This guy is chilling over here. Let's see where I want to plan out my tavern. Maybe I put it over here. Clear out this section and put a small tavern right in here. I think I like that idea. Put some cage traps over here. No, I think I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to make sure I select this. Let's dump that. Let's dump that. And let's dump this. Let's unforbid that. Unforbid that. Or undump that. Yes, all this stuff can go. Let's undump that. And then, yeah, let's dump all this other stuff. This is just refuse and carcass and things that I really don't need. But I do want to actually, let's re-customize this, or let's redo this, and let's erase a lot of this stuff in here. Boom, boom, boom. Let's create another little spot over here. Well, let's actually create the rest to fit into here. And I'm going to create a spot for corpses so they can actually move corpses into there. That way they can start cleaning up our spot up here. And we got some giant pangolins growing up. It automatically selects it over here. I've got some pangolins in one of these cages. That, like I said, that's everything. Well, probably not everything about animals. I mean, if you got any more questions, I've got so much more to let y'all know. But I think that is a good point to cut this episode. Thank you for joining me. I hope that y'all have a wonderful rest of your day. Adios now. Yeah, I got so many totems, so many earrings, and so much stuff over here. I'm trying to clean out. We'll need to make this bigger. See, let's get these tables in here. Let's get some more tables for our eating area. Hmm. Food, and I only want drinks. Food, and I only want prepared meals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7. Okay. So 14. Let's get 14 in here. You know what? Electrum pills. You know what? Electrum throws. Let's make this decadent. Free this. Hmm. Nine. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 9. 18. Yeah, 9. 18. Plus another 4. 18, 26. Plus 10. 36. Let's change this. Oh, what was I gonna do? Yeah, 36. Here. Block. Let's get diorite because I got a crap ton. 36. Perfect. Dun, 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 dun. Now all these are closed up except for this last one, which should be, it's pulled. Now with all those closed up, I am perfectly fine pulling these. Hey, you coming over here, socialize. That's been pulled. That means I'm good to pull this one. And that frees up the backside of all these, allowing me to come grab the mechanisms, the cages, clear this all up quite a bit. Okay, good. You guys did your job. You dealt with that giant hole. Thank you. Yes, yes, we know. You're getting close. You're getting... Okay, good. Mechanisms being brought up top. I got all these cage traps over here. I can dismantle these, but you know what? Oh, wait. What did I want? What kind of floor did I want for this? Let us do chert. Let's get a door on this. Anything that tries to fly on should fly in. Hit that first. Good job, you became a scholar. Get these old ones. Yep. And yep, you're all set. Boom, 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 boom. Perfect. Hmm. See what our manager's doing. What is your skill in furnace operating? Oh, you're a high master furnace operator. Interesting. Almost maximum. Let's see your other skills. Social. Where is your yeah, legendary organizer? Of course, as the manager. What equipment are you picking up? Oh, I just need you to go do your work orders, bud. That's all I'm asking. I'm waiting. Go do your managerial duties. Yeah, that's fine. You're supposed to not do anything. You will go deal with your job as a manager. Come on, do your managerial job. That's all they ask. did your job. Tell me you did your job. Yes! That's what I'm waiting for. You to manage your work orders. What in the world?